have a woman lead me on that
Right.
whole process was a big deal. Your cycle changes, your skin changes, all these things shift, and you sort of need to have someone to like ask questions to.
This is Collective Drift. I'm your host, Erica Vernay Knowles. This platform was created to celebrate all women, the beauty of their cultures, and international travel experiences. Welcome to Collective Drift.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Erica Knowles here with Collective Drift. And today we're meeting with
Asanyah Davidson.
Yes. So I went to high school with Asanyah at Dash. Ta-da!
Yeah. Today's my gym day, so the cutoff hoodie is part of the gym day look.
Yes, of course. But you're representing the Phantoms.
Of course.
Yes, because
till we die. Phantom till we die.
Phantom till we die. Absolutely. So Asanyah is a fashion designer extraordinaire. I felt like that word needed to go along with it. She studied fashion at Dash and then continued to study fashion and got a master's in it and traveled around the world and lived abroad in West Africa and multiple places. And now is a director of a program at Miami Dade College, the Fashion Institute, and is the founding director of the Fashion Institute at Miami Dade College. And also has her own fashion line, Circa 24, which you can see me repping every once in a while. You'll see me in that orange skirt. That orange skirt is the Asanyah skirt. Yes. So that was my quick, brief definition of Asanyah. Can you tell everybody like who Asanyah is?
Wow, that's crazy. Jamaican born. I like to say that I'm like a child of the world, person of the world, or citizen of the world. Vegan, definitely vegan. Probably will never ever not be vegan, although people try to tempt me all the time. Being Caribbean and vegan is a very weird thing. We can talk about that. I love design and I love education, but more than education, I just love mentorship. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Yeah. How can you be Caribbean and not eat like curry goat and that's...
You know, it's crazy. I grew up, so I'm like from the country. I'm from Clarendon. Just growing up off the land, growing up eating a lot of like roots vegetables and provisions and all of that. It's not far-fetched for me to be vegan, which back in Jamaica is called Ito, only they don't do salt at all. So that's a different flavor profile.
So then you have to do like the kelp salt, stuff.
So it's just for me, it just seems like a natural progression to just be vegan in life, because there's a lot of Rastas who are vegan or ITAL. They don't say vegan, it's ITAL. So for when people are just like, oh, how can you be Caribbean and be vegan? I'm like, well,
you don't know about ITAL?
Yeah, it's always strange, especially when I meet a lot of people from town or people from Kingston. They seem a little bit less aware of it than other people, but it just seemed natural for me. Whereas other people are just like, oh, they just assume they associate the culture with curry goat or oxtail or manish water. All these things are all like animal based.
Jerk chicken.
Right. And
escabeche.
So I think of like kalaloo and, yam and banana. And I think of all the fruits and vegetables. I don't really think of the meat so much, because meat is not, it's not unique to us, but the fruits and vegetables are very unique to the Caribbean and very unique to Jamaica. So I tend to have more of an affinity for the things that are very unique to the culture. So not so much for the meat. So yeah, it's not that far-fetched, but I have to usually go through the whole explanation.
So being a person from Miami, having a lot of Jamaican friends and that I consider family, like introduce to yourself. So, I mean, I hadn't heard of ITIL outside of like Idle Craft. And I'm like, okay, I know Idle Craft, but I didn't even know that was something to do with a thing to be with. Yeah. Right. So there's so many things that, that we know as being Jamaican, but then there's so many things that you don't know being from outside of Jamaica. Yeah. So what are some of those things that you think that we don't know?
Just like the large variety of fruits, mostly fruits, I think, especially.
And even outside of food.
Yeah, just like fruits and vegetables. Maybe even like our school system is very much like the British school system, if not exactly like the British school system. So it's just, there's a lot of things that people make assumptions. Like they think that like most Jamaicans are going to be like having dreads and listening to reggae music. And we do a large portion of the population listens to reggae music, but having dreads is up until recently was still very taboo. Okay. No, and then smoking weed, again, very taboo. People are like, oh, but that's, that's where it comes from. I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't even like legal. I think I have to double check, but I don't even know if it's still legal. It just became legal if it is legal, but it wasn't up until very, very recently. So we'll have to do a fact check. But there's just so many assumptions about the culture. Jamaicans are very conservative for the majority of the island. Most of us are raised conservative. We're raised in a religious family. You know, we're very big on pomp and circumstance, which is very much a British, you know, offshoot. So I think just there's a lot of assumptions. Like one of the things that other people don't sometimes know about the island is that we have a huge cultural mix. You know, just one of the reasons that our motto is out of many one people. So Jamaicans are technically very aware of other cultures as much as their own culture.
Okay.
And also I think probably a little by nature of that, just tolerant to other cultures because it's just acknowledged like Chinese Jamaican, you know, Lebanese Jamaican, Syrian Jamaican. At the end of the day, like you're Jamaican and that you're, you know, we all have a sort of collective responsibility for Jamaica, but you also acknowledge that you come from a different place and you're going to bring that with you. And so that's part of one of the reasons that I love to travel because it's just more exploration. But yeah, that's one of the things I think people don't really know about the island.
So what do you consider, what do you and your family consider yourselves? Like Chinese Jamaican, Indian Jamaican?
No, we're just really mixed. I probably discovered more about like ethnic heritage through like 23andMe and all that stuff. But we're so mixed. It doesn't even, and the way that we're mixed is not even apparent. Like even when we did the test, like I still have, of course, like Chinese Jamaican cousins that are like the Lees and the Chungs and the whatever. And then we have like my mom's friend who's Lebanese who gave me my name. And like, we just, you know, it's just there. And, you know, like our prime ministers have been Syrian or Lebanese and it's just all mixed in. So we don't really, at the end of the day, like my mom's number one rule when I moved to the US was you're Jamaican. And that's the final answer. Like your passport's Jamaican, you're Jamaican, that's it. Yeah.
So you had, earlier we had brunch at Screaming Carrots and we were talking about, briefly about your mom and your grandmother. So it seems like your grandmother raised you initially in Jamaica. What were some of the things that you learned from her in terms of being a woman, either directly that she said to you or that you learned from just watching her and how you should act?
Conduct yourself. I think from her, my grandmother was definitely a very strong woman. I don't think anyone who speaks of their grandmother doesn't use those terms like strong woman, but she wasn't one to yell. She just had like a very forceful presence. And there was definitely a lot of respect paid to her as a result of it. Some of the things that she would just sort of, you know, say to my uncles and my aunts as they were coming in and out, because I was really young, would be like, you know, don't go a street and bring back like a bad reputation to the family or anything like that. Like when you're out there conducting your business, just make sure that you're doing it in such a way that doesn't bring shame onto your family kind of thing.
Right.
So that was one of the things. Being sort of independent was really important for her. Not in a sense that you don't need to have support, but just knowing that you can stand on your own 2 feet and knowing that you're not burdening others because you're too lazy to do the work that you need to do for yourself.
Right.
So I think those things kind of like really stuck with me. And just also like she wasn't very tolerant to drama.
Okay.
And I'm not either. I'm sort of if I see like too much of it, I'm just sort of like, oh, it's like I get hives. I'm just like, can't be around that. That's not going to work for me. But just hard work and just knowing that, you know, there are going to be days where it's not something you want to do or, and that's just what it is. And you have to get through that part of life to get to the things that you do want to do. So she was very much respected in our town that I grew up in. And when she passed away, there was still a lot of respect paid to her as a result of that. And still to this day, I mean, it's been since I was like, I don't know, it's 20 years more or less. And people still talk to me about her, you know, like how she was and how she was in the kitchen. And she raised a lot of kids that weren't her own. And she raised a lot of grandkids that weren't her own, but that because she believed in having like a structure and she believed that kids needed structure in order for them to feel safe and to flourish. So if, you know, something was going on and it was causing disruption in one of the grandkids' lives, she's like, okay, give me the kid and you just go figure out your situation. So I kind of have that, you know, feeling from her. So when I'm like in the position I'm in now at MFI, with my students, when I'm mentoring, I'm saying my job is to create like a structure for you in a place where you can feel consistency in life, so you can feel safe in doing what you need to do.
Right.
And I take that part very seriously as a result of her teachings.
So it seems like a lot of strength.
Yes.
And grounding, but then also taking care of others. So it's still very that feminine aspect of taking care of.
Yeah. She was
pulling through.
She was really great at giving you the sweet with the iron, I guess.
Mhm.
Like, I love you, but there's got to be structure and there's got to be rules, and you step outside of those rules and you're going to get like
Mhm.
a spanking or whatever. But in getting that spanking, it was definitely not out of loss of control or abuse. It was sort of like, this is a punishment for this, and then that was over, and she'd give you a hug and tell you to go back outside and play and whatever.
Okay.
So there was very much like, these are consequences to things, but it doesn't mean I don't care about you.
Right.
Where sometimes I see people try to give discipline in that sense, and it's more about loss of self-control and being upset about something than actually teaching a lesson, so that the person learns a lesson and goes about life. So that was very big for me from her. It kind of has stuck with me pretty much through my whole entire life. Yeah.
Awesome. So how old were you when you moved to the States?
7. Yeah.
So pretty early on, and you were with your mom at that point?
Yeah, I moved. My mom had moved to the States when I was 3, so I joined her in San Mateo, California, when I was about
wow.
So that was my first international flight by myself.
Oh wow!
My first flight and my first international flight were the same ones.
What was that
by myself?
What was that experience like?
It was interesting. I think it was sort of like I have these definitely moments from my younger years when I sort of just was like, all right, we're just going to see how this goes, because I have no idea what's happening.
Right.
But I'm just going to trust that.
And plus, your mother's is she a new woman to you at this point?
She's a new person to me. She's a completely new person to me. Wasn't very much, a part of my consciousness when I was growing up. So it was interesting because I think my flight flew from like Jamaica to New York and then New York to Cali. And so the stewardess on the flight was the one that was kind of looking after me. And then there was a lady next to me that was like chatting to me from the Jamaica to New York leg of the flight. Or Jamaica. I don't remember. I know there was like a stopover in the middle, but it was definitely interesting. But it was fun because it was sort of like this uncharted territory situation. And I have pictures of me coming off the plane, and my mom gave me like a black stewardess Barbie, the one that had the skirt that could flip on the inside when I came off the plane. And I know like that's probably where like my passion for travel kind of like connected with like just the cultural mixes. But I have pictures of me coming off the plane with like these these frilly dresses and my hair in like 2 like French braids, and yeah.
So you're in California at this time, and you have your mom, and then I imagine you have some of your mom's friends and other women that come in your life at this point. What types of influences did you learn from them, from your mom and either aunties and, even teachers, etc., like about being a woman?
Well, my mom was newly married, I think, at this point. She married my stepdad, my sister's dad. And they were sort of like trying to settle into like a family life situation. My sister was born probably about, I don't want to say, maybe a year or 2 after I had been in California. And we transitioned from an apartment to a home. And what was really interesting was to just sort of be a part of this American family. My stepdad's family was originally from Tennessee. And sort of just meeting like the extended family. I think they lived in San Francisco at the time. And they were just so super warm and like friendly. And I grew up in this sort of very big family environment. I had tons of cousins in the house with me at my grandmother's. So it was really nice to sort of see another version of my grandma, which is like someone that is kind of like taking care of the family. So my aunts were at that point, my aunts on my sister's side were at that point kind of like a good surrogate. I kind of think they possibly helped smooth that transition, although it was a rough transition. So if there was a smooth part of it, they probably had a lot to do with it. But just sort of learning how to take care and how to pull family together. Again, I was sort of like, my mom didn't have any. We had an uncle, or she had an uncle, my great uncle, who lived in Fisherman's Wharf, and that was about it for our family. And that was a huge shift for me because I was used to being in a family and uncles, and we are huge. My mom is one of 10, so to going to like this very sort of like, the closest relative was like an hour's drive away. So it was a constant looking for like something that was familiar. And so the women of the family were always familiar because that feeling of hearth and home came from them. Whereas just sort of my mom was still sort of getting settled into being a mom and mom of 2 at this point. So she literally went to be from being a mom of like 0 to a mom of 2. So that was a big shift for her. So getting that support too was probably really important.
Right. So then you moved from California, you moved to Miami at some point.
Yeah, we moved to Miami for like, we moved to Miami for the last few years of elementary school, I want to say. So my sister probably started walking after we moved. So she was brand new. And here I had my two older cousins that I was raised with.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in Jamaica, my grandmother had me, but then I started school at 3,
Okay.
which is when we start school. And so I went to live with my aunt in Mendeville, and she had 2 daughters, 2 older daughters. They're like 10 and 12 years older than me. And so they became my big sisters. And so when they were going off to college, they got shipped off to Miami to be with their dad. And so when my mom moved, we moved to Miami because they were there, as well as an uncle and so on and so forth.
So you're now back with your
we were
Jamaican
back with
family.
like a somewhat like small portion of my Jamaican family. At that point in time, I had my cousins that was great. And then I had made some friends in California, but you know, when you're young, maintaining long distance friendships are not easy.
Right.
Even though pen paling was a big thing back then. And so that's when I started to really make like my major friendships in life.
Mm-hmm.
We know like North Miami has like a huge Haitian community. So I grew up in a very Haitian centered neighborhood. That was great because I had like access to all this culture.
So question, what were some of the things that you learned culturally from the Haitian community and specifically and being a woman?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's certain things that you learn, like for example, you know, in Haitian culture, it's really big. You serve the male person and you do all these things for the male person. And I was just like, that is never gonna be me. I mean, I'm definitely about taking care of, like much like my grandmother. I'm like, I'm happy to take care.
Right.
But I also am taking care because you've worked hard. And so let me do something for you because you've worked hard, not because you're not doing anything else. And I'm going to do this for you because you're simply have a penis and I don't.
Right.
It's not going to work like that.
Right. That doesn't work.
So from a young age, I was probably bucking that. And I would get cussed at all the time by my friend's grandma, who's like my grandma now. But just the same thing. It's making sure that there's always something. I'm always amazed at like the bottomless pot, you know, that exists in both Caribbean cultures, in Jamaican culture and Haitian culture. Like I just, you know, when we're struggling to make ends meet or pay bills, there's always rice in the pot. I'm always like amazed at that. And I think that kind of references kind of like the love that women have for family.
Right.
And so that was important, learning how to cook. I think that was around the age that I decided that I was going to learn how to make dishes from home. Because my mom wasn't really making a lot of traditional Jamaican dishes. She was making a lot of like American fare at that point in time. And so I started to learn how to make Jamaican dishes as a result of being around my Caribbean Haitian friends who like always had like this home cooked food and that feeling. So that was big for me. And then just sort of just taking care of like, you know, the little ones. I had a younger sister. My friend Rodlin, she had a younger sister. We kind of grew up together. So just sort of just looking out for each other. That was a very big part of just the feminine energy in the culture. And then like things like dancing, which, you know, I left probably too young to really get into it in Jamaica. But, you know, compa and zouk and all of that, like learning how to do that and being at like Haitian birthday parties and having my friend's uncle, like, you know, have me step on his feet while he teaches me to dance, like compa and zouk and stuff like that. So that kind of became a little bit a part of my like coming of age story. So it kind of shifted a little bit from being quote unquote 100% Jamaica, definitely 100% Caribbean.
Right.
But it was really appreciated to be invited into that. And like the aunties teaching me like the right way to step as a girl and all of those stuff. So it was really great. And I'm forever grateful for that because they kind of they are a family to us at this point. Like we've been friends for over, gosh, that was when I was like 9 or 10. So we've been friends for like 30 years now. Wow. Yeah.
So you learned a little heel flick.
Oh my gosh. I know all of that. It's so crazy because I think there's times like one of my birthdays, one of my best guy friends, he's Haitian. And he's like, oh, I'm going to take you to a ball. And I was just like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. He's like, Carrie Me's performing. I'm like, yes. This is before they broke up. And I was just like, yes. And he's just like, dude, you're like an honorary Haitian because you get more excited than like my Haitian cousins, my little younger cousins. I'm like, but I love it because it's familiar and it's part of my coming of age time.
Right.
So I just love all of that. I just, you know, I think it's nice to still have a part of culture that allows for roles. Like on the dance floor, the guy has a role and the girl has a role. And you just have to slip into those roles and you're good. Like you don't have to think about anything else, just performing those roles. And I don't know that we have that still in Caribbean culture in Jamaica because we've kind of, I mean, although in carnival culture, which isn't as much Jamaican, and I don't think of it as like, you know, in dance hall culture, which, you know, like there's not as much as like it used to be probably back in the day of like calypso. And
Right.
so it's nice to see that still be current and be able to be a part of
Right.
that. So yeah, that's a big.
So do you see that role on the dance floor is transitioning into the role in the Haitian household then with that
Oh my
male-female
gosh,
dynamic?
it's definitely a part of the MAVE. I think they're, you know, Haitian culture at its core is way more traditional in that sense than probably Jamaican culture as far as the male-female dynamic and sort of like the rules of conduct. But then again, having visited France, I'm sort of like, oh, I get it. I get it. You know, that sort of politeness, the over politeness, the, you know, like you do this and then you do that. Like you say hello and then I say hello. And then, you know, like the rules of engagement are like extra. But yeah, it definitely translates. I suppose it would be, you know, if you follow the rules, it's easier. It would be easier. I suppose I don't follow rules, so that's probably why my life is a mess.
Well, you wouldn't be you then.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me.
So let's get back to you and like who you are. So, you know, you're here today, you're in your workout clothes, you worked out today, you're fresh, clean face, no makeup, no filter.
No filter.
So how do you keep that balance? Like, what are some of your rituals? You know, you're vegan, you know, you're talking about your mother, your grandmother, your aunts, that, you know, it's important to take care of community. But when you're taking care of community, you have to be able to take care of self in order to take care of that community as well. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you've learned either from your sister friends now? I think that we kind of get that at like around 30 or so when you start really. So when did that happen, that you transitioned to being vegan, being aware of that, and then also taking more care of yourself?
The vegan transition, it's probably been a long one because I gave up red meat. I gave up red meat, probably in my early 20s. I had like an aha moment where I realized I didn't have to eat it. I didn't like eating it when I was younger. I didn't swallow it very easily. Some kids don't. And I was out having like a celebratory dinner with another female. She was my supervisor at my job, and she took me out as a celebratory meal as I got into grad school. I got accepted to grad school, and she wanted to like celebrate. And I think I had like Kobe beef or something, and it was, you know, Kobe beef is like one of the most expensive, whatever. Right. And I remember just thinking like, why am I eating this? I don't even like, you know, because I got very much into, living in New York, I got very much into the sort of steak and potatoes type of like, you know, you're corporate, you're doing this, you're doing that. This is what you do to celebrate. And I had a moment where I was just like, I don't need to eat this. And I stopped. And that sort of was the start of the slow transition to 100% vegan. And it took a while. I didn't do dairy very much. I learned I was lactose intolerant in probably my early 20s, late teens. So that was its transition in itself. And so I pretty much kind of avoided dairy, but I still thought I could play with it. And then some days I really couldn't. Right. And then in my 30s, I started to sort of just notice I was getting like all types of really weird illnesses, cysts, and all types of craziness. And like, you know, like just, gross stuff. And I just was like, I don't understand it. Because I at that point, I wasn't eating bad. Right. I wasn't a junk food person because I didn't grow up that way. So I didn't know. I really wasn't a person to have junk food every day. I'm definitely not a McDonald's every day type of person. Right. And the only thing I could think of was like, I just need to eat better. And I had developed like a cyst on my ovary. And the doctor I had seen at the time was an Asian doctor. And before he said anything else, he's like, you know, these kind of things can be controlled by just better eating. Okay. And I was like, okay, you know, because I wasn't big into pills anyways. And so he's like, or a surgery for sure. And he was just like, if you just eat better, you can prevent this. Okay. And so I was like, oh, that seems like an easy solution, which I know for a lot of people isn't. But for me, it was just like, okay, I just got to eat more greens. Right. Gotcha. No problem. I could do that. And then, you know, within the last, maybe 5 years ago, I met Nzinga, who, you know, a mutual friend, and she was doing like a raw vegan challenge. And up until that point, I was quote unquote pescatarian. But even then I was just like, I don't really need to be eating fish. It doesn't make any sense. The whole tilapia thing was like crazy. I was just like, I can't win by eating any of this stuff because whatever they eat, I eat. And we did raw vegan for a month, and then I've been vegan ever since. So that was like 5 years ago.
You did raw vegan for a month?
I did raw vegan for a month in winter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty heavy.
It is hardcore.
I did about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, because I was doing the detox with her. I did that with her.
Yeah.
And I wasn't taking the detox pills every day. So I kept extending it out. But I can't imagine.
No, it was, and the thing is, people were like, oh, I need to have warm food. I need warm food. I'm like, that's not my issue. My issue is just that I need to really relearn how to eat. And the first week or two were super frustrating because you're just sort of, you don't realize how much you're on automatic when it comes to your food source till you have to stop doing that stuff. And then you sort of hit the wall of frustration. But after 2 weeks, we were great. And then when it was time to come off of it, I was like, no, I'm just going to stick vegan and just stick to being plant-based. And it's worked. I mean, my body changed because I was working out a lot. Reason I have all my workout clothes is today's boxing, and I usually do sparring on Sundays, try to get 20 rounds in, and it burns a lot of calories, but my energy is a lot cleaner, and I usually do it on an empty stomach. Okay. So it's just, my body shifted. I put on more muscle. I got rid of a lot of fat. It just shifted. And so it hasn't really, people are always just like, oh, I've been to restaurants where the server's like, being vegan will make you lose your hair. And I'm like, I haven't lost any hair. I wish. I wouldn't have to go get my wax done, Right. Or he's just like, oh, they look so malnutritioned. I'm like, I've been vegan for 5 years. Do I look like a malnutrition?
Like, not at all.
He's like, oh, well, you probably eat a lot of carbs. I'm like, I actually don't. I just eat a lot of, good green stuff. Like I'm supposed to.
And it's about eating enough.
But also just knowing you do get to eat a lot more in volume. Right. Because all of that is mostly water. So fruits and vegetables are mostly water. And so you're absorbing that. It's helping you flush your system. But I'll eat like a massive plate of food that is mostly greens, vegetables, organic stuff. And I've had guys be like, oh, there's no way you're going to finish that. I'm like, I'm going to finish this and I'm going to eat again in 2 hours. Yay. Yay me. You are going to be stuffed and half asleep on the couch because you're tired now from eating all that crap. Exactly. So it's just been really good for me personally. And to have a woman lead me on that whole process was a big deal. Your cycle changes, your skin changes, all these things shift, and you sort of need to have someone to like ask questions to. Right. And so that's probably one of the things I'm most grateful for in our friendship is that she was there for that transition.
Absolutely. Yeah. She was my wellness coach. I still consider her my wellness coach. When I was, I had fibroids. I have them again. But when I went through the surgery and everything, that's why I did the raw vegan detox. And that was kind of what I did before the surgery to kind of
get your body ready
for it.
Yeah. I had LASIK while I was in the middle of the raw vegan challenge with her, and the surgery, the doctor, I had surgery one day. I went back for like the post-op. The doctor was like, how long ago did you do your surgery? And I'm just like, yesterday. He's just like, oh, like your eyes are almost healed.
Oh, wow.
He's just like, you must be really well hydrated. Because that's the big thing with the eyes, right? If you're dehydrated, your eyes get really fuzzy or you don't see as well. And he's just like, you must be doing something right because you're healing really, really fast. And so my healing time was cut in half because of like what I was going through during that detox. So that again was just a reminder to me, like, this is the right thing to do for your body. It also helped though that I'm not an emotional eater per se. I'm definitely the opposite. Like when I'm stressed, I don't eat. I don't go for food. And there's only a few things that I attach to sort of like nostalgic memories, and I've had developed substitutes for those things. And that was one of the things that she suggested, like, if there's something that is your comfort food, let's find a vegan version of that, because we don't want to throw you off the path. Right. If you're craving that because of some emotional reason, you want to have an option. Right. The minute I figured out how to do like a good chunky vegan version of like Jamaican chicken soup, I was good. I was set.
No, it's definitely all of those versions, I think, and that's the good reason to like have someone that's guiding you along, like Nzinga. I mean, because when we started it, she actually came over and like made a few dishes for me. Yeah. So I had like really good tasting food, like this Thai, the Asian noodles,
the pad Thai. Her pad Thai is amazing,
right? And all these different things. I mean, even today we were at Screaming Carrots, and I had their cow soy the other day. And I've lived in Thailand. I almost said I'm from Thailand. I lived in Thailand. And it's a northern dish from Chiang Mai that's called cow soy. And cow soy. And it has chicken in it. And this was like a really good version of it. And it's like you can get the flavors you want.
You can. And the thing is, like, most of the food that we eat is flavored. Like, you season it to get the flavor that you want. Yes, animal fat adds a certain like level of flavoring.
It does.
But you can,
and the texture.
Yeah, and you can, simulate that in other ways. It's just really a mind block and sort of something that people just have to get past. But there's times people have been out with me eating. They're like, oh, they think that I've ordered them sort of like a meat dish while I'm eating a vegan dish. And I'm like, no, this is a vegan restaurant. So you're eating vegan. They're like, oh my God, it tastes so good. I'm like, they use the same seasonings you use on meat, on vegetables. It's like the same thing, guys.
Absolutely.
Like most seasonings are vegan.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you took me to the pizza place and we had that vegan lasagna.
Gosh.
It's
Benucci's is everything.
Yeah, Benucci's. Yes. Benucci's is in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Screaming Carrots is in Hollandale on Hollandale Boulevard. So all of it's kind of right here in this southern Broward area.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to part 1 of our interview with Asanyah Davidson, fashion designer of Circa 24 and the founding director at Miami Fashion Institute at Miami Dade College. Didn't you just love that conversation with her? Well, if you did, and I'm sure you did, stay tuned for the next episode where we'll get into why it's so important to have a diverse collection of mentors, her adventures living abroad in West Africa, and about that hot topic of fashion appropriation. If you'd like to find Asanyah, you can find her at circa24forever.com. That's CIRCA 24FOREVER.com, or at Circa24Forever on Instagram. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and on the website at Collective Drift. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. And of course, leave your comments below. Love to have your feedback. Bye.